the meeting to order. Would you please take roll?
Miss Adkins? Mr. Houston? Here. Mrs. McDaniel?
Here.
Mrs. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Stoffer? Mr. Wyledge? Here. Mrs. Sheffel?
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the July 24th, 2023 agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. Commendation and good news.
So we have just kind of a variety of things that I'll talk about in my report updates. The one good news that I did want to talk about is that we just were notified on Friday that the STEM program, or not STEM, well, it's STEM program, but the plastics program at the middle school just received a grant for $50,000 from Iowa West Foundation. So that'll help them continue to grow their program. So pretty excited. So we're going to meet tomorrow with Stacy Goodwin. She's going to talk about the terms, and they are, Mr. Van Zanti and Mr. Kern are super pumped to continue the work they've been doing. So yeah, that's probably the biggest good news. Other good news, if you can call it good, is we're less than a month away from school starting. So for someone like me, that is good news because I like the sound of kids running around. For people like my daughters, it's very horrible news. So,
Same. My kids are like just dreading it.
yeah.
My husband.
It's not that bad.
He still complains when he sees back to school ads.
Yeah.
And I said, you're not going to school.
Oh,
You have no kids in
what's,
school.
What's crazy is I've seen pumpkin spice ads. Like, I'm like, what is happening here?
Too
Like,
soon. Too
oh
soon.
yeah. That's how I knew school must be
All the
starting.
vibrations popping up on
Yes.
the algorithms now. I'm like, what? It's crazy.
Pretty soon, we're just gonna be able to drink pumpkin spice lattes while we light off fireworks. It's gonna be amazing. So. All right.
Any other commendation and good news?
Nope, that's it.
All right, we'll go on to comments and suggestions. This is the first time during our agenda. Anyone in our audience or anyone online, if they would like to type something in, can address the board. Okay. Hearing none, we'll go to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And is there an updated personnel sheet?
No.
Okay, so we have all the information. Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wyledge?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. Reports, 6.01, superintendent report.
So I'm going to start with some facility stuff. So the high school bathrooms, they will, by the time we're done with them, they'll be unrecognizable from what they were previously, which is very good. They're a little bit behind schedule, so we're probably going to be pushing that start of the school by the time they're done. The tile in the boys' bathroom is almost complete. I think they're going to start grouting as early as tomorrow. Then they'll switch over to the girls' bathroom, which the floor is pretty much laid in the girls. I'll have to do all the walls. The countertops come on the 4th. Stalls are going to come that week as well, and then toilets and sinks will be after that. So it'll be pushing a little bit, but they will be really, really nice when they're done. The football field is 100% done and signed off on. The scoreboard should be hooked up by the end of next week. They were waiting for some components or something. Then they'll come out and they'll get the last 2 panels installed, and they'll get that board fired up, and it'll be pretty awesome. We are looking to do that first game against Harlan on August 25th. It's a Friday night. We are going to do a field and scoreboard dedication kind of a ceremony. So I'm going to have some representatives from Iowa Western and the Booster Club attend, and just want to recognize those two as our main partners in getting those 2 projects done. The Titan Hill carpets, the other big project that we have going on right now. and they are getting that wrapped up over there. They should another probably week and a half, and hopefully they'll be wrapped up over there. Today we just completed the final walkthrough of the auditorium. They have kind of it's not a long list, but they have a short list of a few punch items left, and then they have a longer list of warranty items that they're going to go through. Our warranty does expire at the end of September. I think September, I want to say 26th was the substantial completion date. So between now and September 26th, we're going to try to figure out everything that's wrong with it and make sure that we get that submitted so that way that it'll fall under their warranty. We have a new LCLC director starting tomorrow, and her name is Jessica Walter, right? Yeah, Walter. And she's super excited. She stopped in today and did some orientation stuff. Super excited to get started. Andrea and I are super excited to have her start, so we don't have to be that director anymore. We implemented Brightwheel last week to help us. It's just an online management program for daycare, and it's going to do a lot. It's going to take a lot of that burden off of the person running it. It's a free service right now through DHHS, and so, but it does all the billing, it does all the scheduling, it does all the parent information, registration, and then just the communication piece is pretty awesome. It sends messages directly to their phone, so they're going to be able to utilize it. It's a little bit of a headache to get up and get going, but I think it'll be really good when it's done. We've gotten a lot of really good, some really positive feedback so far. I talked about we're less than 1 month away from school starting. Next week is the School Administrators of Iowa Conference. That's kind of like the week that all the principals and administrators come back. And then we go to Des Moines for a few days for that conference, and then we come back the week after, and then it's pretty much go time. We'll have new staff coming in, we'll have some people coming in doing some trainings, we'll do a lot of tours with families that want to come through and see the buildings for the first time, or want to be able to see the buildings that their kids are going to be attending. I got a couple tours this week. That's just a reminder to those who may be watching out there that if you are interested in doing a tour of the buildings at any time for any reason, just give me a call. Call me up and we'll go walk through. Sometimes, especially if you're new to the district or if it's going to be a new building, even if you've been to the building a million times, being able to walk through the building when it's quiet and there's not a lot of people there, it's a lot less overwhelming. You can get your bearings a little bit, so that way when you do come, you kind of a better, your feet are at least underneath you. Then we have the last thing I wanted to update on is the land agreements have been signed by everybody, I believe. So they do have to come back to us to approve some minor changes. There was just some clarification. All the substantial portions of the land contracts were agreed upon. There was some minor language in there about like for instance, if the deal falls through for whatever reason, that they'll be able to get a copy of our due diligence that we have conducted on the land. That's a pretty common practice, especially in the business world. So I said that's not a big deal. We can absolutely do that. And then there was a couple other small pieces. I don't remember off the top of my head, but nothing that when they told me about them was a red flag at all. It's kind of common sense stuff. Like, yep, absolutely, that's fine. So other than that, should be good to go there. That's about it. Does somebody have any questions for me? All right, very good.
Okay, we'll go on to discussion item 7.01, IASB legislative priorities for 2023.
So I sent you guys a kind of the online button for the legislative priorities. You'll see there's quite a list of them that you can choose through. As a district, we need to identify 4, and we need to submit those 4 to IASB, and then they kind of, out of everybody else in the state, they kind of try to pick which ones were brought up the most. My recommendation again would just kind of be to stick with some similar priorities that you guys have had in the past. I think preschool, any kind of early childhood, that's got to be a big priority across the state. The earlier we can get kids into school and being around their peers and developing, those life skills of having to listen to other people and having to get along with other people, and because that's really what preschool is. There's not a ton of learning that takes place other than just there's just a lot of playtime. They learn a lot of social skills, and then they do get introduced to some very early reading and math concepts. And so preschool's huge. Looking at that funding differently, as we embark on a journey to hopefully open a larger early childhood center, any additional funding we can get to pay the staff in that center is greatly appreciated. Mental health there's a lot in there about safety, security, some disciplinary stuff, but at the end of the day, it all comes back to kind of that mental health piece. If we can continue to look at what are some resources that we can get from the state to help us, help some of these students who are really struggling, I think we're going to have less of those other issues. So whereas I'm not saying those other areas aren't priorities. I think safety recently has been a huge priority, and so they've given us quite a bit of money. There's still money out there to be claimed for safety. We have safety as one of our fundamental reasons to update our buildings through the bond initiative. So I think we're already doing quite a bit with safety. Mental health is really the thing we can advocate for it all day long, but until we get somebody at a legislative level to provide some additional resources, we're kind of dead in the water there. Teacher recruitment and licensure. I think this has to be a new one. I think we have to really focus on this because there are not teachers being developed in colleges anymore, not at the rate that they used to be. I think last year, somebody was telling me in the state of Iowa, only 5 high school math teachers graduated from a college in the state of Iowa. 5 high school math teachers. That's crazy. Do you know how many openings there are out there right now? The fact that we are still having a kindergarten opening is amazing to me because, less than 10 years ago, when I first became an administrator, we would have 60 applicants. We opened an elementary position in mid-August one year, and we had, 15, 16 applicants. There's nothing. And so it's a huge issue. And I think we have to try to figure out how can we make teaching more of a revered profession, and how can we figure out ways to get people to enter into it. So that's got to be a focus. And then school funding, that kind of is something that's on there every single year. We continue to fall behind inflation when it comes to the rise in our state supplemental aid that we're given every year. And so, as we move forward, how can we, and that goes right back to that teacher recruitment. People are leaving the profession because they can go make more money in a less stressful job other places. And so how can we combat that? So that would be my recommendation, those 4 areas. But of course it's, if you guys have read through the list and you have other things to pop in there, absolutely.
Is there any other suggestions, any discussion on these 4? I think these are good 4.
Agree.
It's very much needed. And if the IASB will have these as priorities, they're speaking to our legislators all the time.
Yep.
And so they're advocates, and so unless someone wants to throw something different in there. Okay, then you'll go ahead and submit those.
Yep.
All righty. Then we'll go on to 7.02, LCLC handbook updates.
So I'm going to have Dr. Hartman's going to take over for Mr. Black. So she's going to put up our new LCLC. So we just completely revamped the handbook in the last few weeks. So this will be available on our Brightwheel app and on our website for any parent to take a look at. And if you just scroll down, it talks about what the programs are. It talks about mission, the vision, the goals, the licensing, there's some context there for DHHS, that in order to register, this is how you register, eligibility, required forms, keep going down. Fees and payment policies, so then you look at weekly rates and fees. So this is, we sat down and kind of came up with some constant rates written down, so that way anybody can know when they go on our website. I do think we are still, I mean, the rates have gone relatively unchanged. It was $5 before for an AM session. If you have more for one child, if you have multiple children, you get a 10% family discount. If you scroll down, after school rates, this did go up a little bit. So it was at $5.50. My recommendations could go to $7, and that just corresponds with the number of hours that they're there. So in the morning, if you're there from 6:30 to 8, that's an hour and a half. After school, if you're there at 3:30 to 6, that's, roughly 2.5 hours. So, I kind of just try to figure out what would be the equivalent. And then again, 10% discount for multiple children. One of the things you'll see is a drop-in rate of $10. And so if you go up just a little bit, a couple things that will change are two things. One, we are going to require, because we have so many people on waiting lists and so many people looking to get daycare, 5 days a week, we're going to require a commitment, like a lot of daycares do, that if you want to be a part of the program, you're going to have to commit to like an everyday attendance. You don't have to come every day, but you will be charged for the days there, because what ends up happening is our daycare is rated for 150 students. And so we have to staff it on a daily basis at 100, as if 150 students are going to show up. So if only 70 show up, we're still staffing it for 150, but we're only charging for 70. And so we're either having to tell people to go home, like, hey, thanks for waking up at 6:30, but now you got to go home because we don't have enough kids coming, which then creates discontent. It's hard to find staff anyway. Or we let them stay and we pay them, and then we're just not being essentially reimbursed for the money that we're paying out for those individuals. And so because the DHHS is so strict on not being able to go over your ratios, we're going to have to charge on a daily basis. So we're going to reach out to everybody that we currently serve first and see what they want to be in, and make sure we get them in, and knowing that they're going to have to pay the daily rate. And then we're going to reach out to other people. So if somebody says, well, I don't really want to pay a daily rate, but I want to pay 3 days a week, we're going to say, okay, you're going to have to fall off for now. We're going to go back to all of our waitlist people, and if nobody wants the daily rate and we still have some room at the end, then we can come back and allow you to, do the drop-in rate or whatever on a three-day rolling basis. So as the rates you see up there, you'll see one rate for what we call a commitment. So if you're 5 days a week or 4 days a week or whatever it is, and really it corresponds with the days that we're offering the service. So like obviously Labor Day is not an offered day, and so it would only be 4 days that week for AM. If we have 2 days off at the end of the week, or if we have the whole week off, you're not paying any of the AM. You're only paying on the days that you're supposed to be there. And then, but the drop-in rate then goes up, because if you're not going to come as often, you're going to pay a little bit more, because we have to bill you independently, versus when we have all the committed people, we can just say, load them all up, one rate for the week, and say bill. If you're an independent person, we have to go to you independently, and there's just more steps to bill. So it's a little bit extra to be a drop-in. If you go down, the same thing, and the weekly average is how many it averaged. So like for instance, PM is only 4 days a week, because one day every single week we have an early dismissal. If you go down more, the early dismissal obviously goes up because it's an extra hour of care that we're providing. We're going to ask for a commitment there as well. If you're going to give us a commitment, you're going to be there every week. You're going to get it's going to be $8.50 or $7.65 if you have multiple kids. And then, but if you're not going to be there every week, you just want to do drop-in, it's $12. And then we're going to keep the full day non-school day rate at $25. And that is it's a little bit different when it comes to non-school days, because a lot of people don't know if they need it on that day. So what it's going to be is, if you are somebody, when we put out, we're gonna treat them almost like a day camp. We're gonna put it out to everybody in LCLC and say, hey, we're gonna have a day camp. Like the first day I was talking about was like October 13th. We have a teacher in service day. So on October 13th, we're gonna send it out and say, hey, we have a day camp, sign up for day camp. And so everybody will get to sign up. If all those that get in by the deadline so we can staff appropriately, it's gonna be $25. If you decide the day before, oh no, I need to get in somewhere, I'm gonna drop in, it's just gonna be a little extra because we're gonna have to scramble to try to make sure we're within ratio. So as long as you meet the deadline, which is like a week before, you're gonna be good at $25. If you're gonna do it after that, it's gonna be bumped a little bit, but I'll tell you at the rate I pay babysitters, and most of us pay babysitters, $40 for 10 hours of care is still a heck of a deal. So, and then of course, that money includes any activities, lunch, et cetera, that we offer those days, okay? Unless we ask specifically for you to bring a sack lunch because we don't have food service for whatever reason. So that's what that is. Summer wraparound rates, we are gonna go up a little bit. So this is for summer of, this is next summer, this is 2024. We typically were charging $25 a day. But what that covers is that covers all the activities for the week, that covers the meals for the week, that covers everything else. So we're not really breaking even on that. And so especially when we do some really fun activities, like for instance, we'll take all the kids to Amazing Pizza Machine, and we'll give them game tokens and pizza and everything else. Well, essentially the $25 that parents were paying for the care went to Amazing Pizza Machine, so that it really wasn't like we weren't even paying for the staff coverage for the day. And so this program is a completely standalone program, and they are operating well right now. They're operating, but we do need to look at some of our rates that we're paying our staff to make sure that we can compete. Because right now, if you're a high school kid and we tell you, okay, you can make $10 an hour working here, and you can go to McDonald's and make 17, that's really hard, and we want to make sure that we have plenty of staff, because if we don't have enough staff, we can't serve 150 students. So especially when we're looking to expand the daycare with the new building, we need to make sure we have the funding that allows us to go and get, really high quality employees to watch the kids. So that's kind of the difference there, is just more of a everyday commitment. During the summer, we will let you have 5-day, what we call vacation time, like unpaid vacation time. You can break it up into 2 sessions. So if you want to take a vacation, family vacation, we're not going to penalize you and make you pay for the time they're not there. Remember, it's only when you're in session, so you will not be, like, if we have a snow day and it's canceled, or if we have an early out and it's canceled, you're not going to be charged for that session. You're only going to be charged for the sessions that you're supposed to be there. Here are the dates that it's closed. We tightened up some of those windows in the past. They would be kind of closed for long periods of the time at the end of summer and then at the end of the school year, kind of their transition period. We've really tightened that up to 2 or 3 days. So we're just going to close up for 2 or 3 days to make the transition, and then we're going to go ahead and get right into it. And that's when they'll do all their new staff trainings and everything else, and then we'll get right into back into service. So anyway, that's kind of and if you keep scrolling down, this just talks about snack time, outside play, homework help. I'm gonna ask them to implement reading time on a daily basis. As a school, if we really advocate for 20 minutes of reading a night, one of the things that we put in Missouri Valley, we're going to do down here too, is those kids in after school, we're going to try to make sure you get 20 minutes. It's either 20 minutes of one of our staff members reading to them, or 20 minutes of you reading, but we'll help you get that 20 minutes done, so when you go home you don't have to worry about the 20 minutes. So, or we'll help you with homework time or anything else like that. So kind of looking for opportunities to get that in as well. Field trips, transportation, we talk about that. The conduct policy. A reminder to people that daycare is not school. Daycare is a completely separate entity, does not have the same resources school does. I think sometimes when the expectations of daycare are to operate like a school. So if the child is struggling in school and needs more one-on-one attention, the school is able to have resources to be able to help them. If a child is struggling in daycare and needs one-on-one attention, we are literally staffing for a 1-to-12 ratio and just staying afloat like that. We don't have the services for for really one-on-one attention. And so that's what the rules and expectations are. Not that we ever want to tell a kid you can't come here, but if it's the only way that we're able to stay within ratio and be able to make sure all the kids are cared for, we may have to have that. And so this is spelled out for parents so they understand. And we do a lot of trainings and resources. We have resources and everything else to really try to work with kids. And I've worked with several families just this summer on problem solving and making sure that we can keep their children in LCLC. So, and they've responded great. So, if you keep going down, licensing procedures, binding policies, these are all of our current policies that we have at school. It's just kind of just so people understand, like, we do have the same policies in our daycare program as we have in school. So keep going down. Arrival pickup. Belongings, we don't want people to bring stuff that can be stolen or broken, exact same rules we have at school. Keep going down. Mandatory reporting, hiring procedures, orientation, staff development, supervision. And this is a lot for our staff too, like they have to understand that we have high expectations of students, we have high expectations of staff. So keep going down. A lot of our safety protocols, medicine, health and safety, consent forms, illness policy. And these are once again just replications of what is in our current handbook. So just keep going. Toilet training, just a reminder for people, we take kindergarten age students right now. We are not necessarily equipped to take preschool age students. And the reason is because if you're below the age of 5, the ratio becomes a 1:8 versus a 1:12. And so the way we're staffed is for a 1:12. So that's why we can't take students under the age of 5. And then blizzard storms, etc. Yep. So I guess, do you guys have any questions or concerns? Just trying to get it all into one place and make sure parents have access to it, and makes it a lot easier to refer back to later on. And parents will just we'll have a form that they'll sign that says they acknowledge that that there's a handbook, that they have access to it, that they've read through it, and so that'll be a portion of their registration.
Are the families currently in the program? Are they first
Yes. So
in
yep.
line for the changes, and when does the change take effect?
So that's a great question. So if you're currently in, we're not going to drop it on you 1 month before school starts that you're going to have to pay, every day. So we did communicate to all the parents that are currently in there and tell them that these changes are taking place. However, if you're currently in the program, you're going to be grandfathered into whatever it is you're currently paying, which is essentially they all pay by attendance right now. And so they're going to be grandfathered in through the first trimester, because we're going to ask for trimesterly commitments. So they have until essentially November 17th to decide, do I want to just go ahead and pay, for every day, or am I going to go find another option? So really we're giving them, almost 4 months to find a different option if that's where they want to go. So.
Yeah, I don't know how many daycares around that you don't have to pay if your child is sick or, is
I've never
absent
heard
that
of that.
way. I mean, to hold
Before here.
that spot.
What's that?
I've never heard of that before here, like before having it revealed to us,
Oh, yeah.
but that's how it was.
Yeah. So,
I'm glad it's changing though.
I think this will be more fair to everyone and get our numbers up so we can serve more students and families.
And it's still, if you do the cost comparison, we're not trying to cost anybody out of their own home daycares or anything else. But at the end of the day, if you were to do comparisons, that this is very low compared to, even with the increase for like the summer care, it's very low compared to what you would find in other places. So, and the reason is not that we're trying to, we're not trying to, get others out of the market. We want people to be in the market. It's just because we have to run even. We can't make money and we can't lose money. And state law requires us to earn what we spend and spend what we earn, and that's it. So, very balanced.
Okay. We'll go on to 7.03, suburban purchase.
So there's, I kind of talked to you guys about this the last time. When we are looking for vehicles, last year, I kind of came in with the mindset of, I was kind of surprised we didn't have any four-wheel drive vehicles, especially with how much we're transporting students during winter, from between activities and our students that we transport to other districts for therapeutic schools and other needs. I really thought we needed a four-wheel drive vehicle, so we got the first Suburban last fall, because we actually had about 5 vans that they were looking to rotate out, 5 9-passenger vans. They wanted to rotate out and purchase new ones. I'm not a fan of purchasing a 9-passenger van when we can purchase an 8-passenger four-wheel drive vehicle that's for less money. I'm also a fan of if we can get 12-passenger vans used, which is you have to by the state of Iowa law, I would rather go that route because we can get a few more students in. So that's really what we're going to do. This would be the 3rd SUV that we have in our fleet, and we'll just stop there. That's enough. That helps us get, for a lot of our kids, that allows us to transport 21 students in a four-wheel drive vehicle if we have to with 3 coaches. And so that's, in cases of inclement weather, if we had to choose between, getting a bus or a van on the road, or having a four-wheel drive vehicle available if coaches are comfortable and sponsors are comfortable and able to take them in that. I would prefer us to do that. And for a lot of our staff, it's just more, they feel more confident in driving a Suburban because it's much more similar to their current vehicle than one of our big 9 or 12 passenger vans. So it's nice to have a few of them around. Edwards has given us a really good price on them. So that's, they're local, and it's nice to do business locally. And we've reached out. I probably have contacted no fewer than 8 different dealerships across the state of Iowa and over in Omaha, trying to find out, 1, who has a base model Suburban available, and 2, what is your price? And they're usually in the low to mid 60s. So this is, significantly lower than that. So, and we did just buy one from them in June, and then they happened to have another one come up, so they offered it to us first. So I said I would definitely take it, and then we're kind of done for SUVs for right now. We'll still look for 12-passenger vans, but we'll be done here. And they're not fancy. They're cloth seats and FM radio, but they're four-wheel drive, and that's
better
all
than
I care.
nothing, yeah.
So.
Is there any questions? Okay. 7.04, open enrollment application request per Iowa code. We are able to have this in closed session. So with that, can I get a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Sheffel?
Yes. Session. And the next thing on our agenda is comments and suggestions. This is the second time during our agenda that anyone in the audience or anyone online can type something in to address the board. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to our action items. 9.01 IASB legislative priorities for 2023.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to move that we submit the following 2023 legislative priorities to IASB: preschool, mental health, teacher recruitment and licensure, and school funding.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 9.02 LCLC handbook updates.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to move that we approve the recommended changes to the LCLC handbook terms and fees.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 9.03 suburban purchase.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to move that we approve the agreement to purchase of a 2023 Chevy Suburban from Edwards Auto.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. Shepherd?
Yes. 9.04 open enrollment application request.
Madam President,
Mr. Houston.
I'd like to move that we decline the open enrollment request presented to us in closed session.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote, please.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Wylage?
Yes.
Mr. Houston?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mrs. Schiffel?
Yes. Items of interest, future board meetings. We have our regular board meeting, which will be August 7th, 2023 at 6:30. Anything else?
Nope,
Okay, just getting ready for school to start.
you bet.
Less than a month. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You can stay.